Imagine a vehicle that defies everything you thought you knew about cars. Picture yourself behind the wheel of something that charges itself directly from sunlight, travels up to 1,000 miles on a single charge, and meets safety standards that rival the most trusted automobiles on the road today. Now imagine that this vehicle looks like it was designed by engineers who refuse to accept the limitations of conventional thinking. This isn't some distant dream or concept that will never see production. This is happening right now, and the company making it happen is called Aptera. What you're about to learn in the next half hour will fundamentally challenge your assumptions about what's possible in automotive engineering. And more importantly, it might just convince you that the future of transportation doesn't require us to sacrifice safety for sustainability. Stay with me, because the deeper we go into this story, the more fascinating it becomes. The automotive world stands at a pivotal moment in history. Electric vehicles have moved from novelty to mainstream, but while most manufacturers are simply electrifying existing car designs, one company has taken a completely different path. Aptera Motors isn't building just another electric car with a battery pack bolted into a conventional chassis. They're engineering what they boldly claim to be the most efficient vehicle ever created by human hands. But here's the thing that keeps potential buyers awake at night, the thing that sparks heated debates across internet forums and engineering discussions. Efficiency becomes meaningless if the vehicle can't protect the people inside it. So the question that demands an answer is this: how does a startup company with a three-wheeled solar-powered vehicle ensure that safety isn't just an afterthought, but a foundational principle that guides every design decision they make? If you spend any time browsing through the Aptera Motors community on Reddit, you'll quickly notice that safety concerns appear in nearly every discussion thread. Potential buyers are excited about the technology, enthusiastic about the solar charging capability, and impressed by the promised range, but they also want reassurance that this unconventional vehicle won't put their families at risk. Over on Quora, automotive enthusiasts and engineers engage in detailed technical debates about whether Aptera's unique three-wheeled design can truly deliver the kind of crash protection we've come to expect from vehicles that have been refined over more than a century of development. The data from Google Trends reveals something particularly interesting. Searches for terms related to Aptera's safety features have been climbing steadily month after month as more people discover this revolutionary vehicle and start asking the hard questions that any responsible buyer should ask. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and examine Aptera's comprehensive approach to safety in exhaustive detail. We're not going to accept marketing claims at face value or rely on promotional materials. Instead, we're going to dig into the engineering philosophy that drives their design decisions, scrutinize the testing protocols they're implementing, analyze the materials and construction methods they've chosen, and explore every aspect of how this vehicle protects its occupants from harm. By the time we're finished, you'll have a complete understanding of whether Aptera's safety credentials can stand up to serious examination. Before we can properly evaluate Aptera's safety systems, we need to understand exactly what makes this vehicle so different from anything else on the road, and more importantly, why that difference creates unique engineering challenges that conventional automakers never have to face. Aptera's vehicle is a three-wheeled, ultra-aerodynamic, solar-powered electric vehicle that looks like nothing else you've ever seen. The design isn't just different for the sake of being different. Every curve, every surface, every structural element has been optimized to slip through the air with minimal resistance, because reducing aerodynamic drag is the single most effective way to extend range and improve efficiency in any vehicle. Here's where things get interesting from a regulatory perspective. Unlike traditional four-wheeled automobiles, Aptera's design places it in a classification called an auto cycle in most jurisdictions. This classification comes with its own distinct set of regulatory requirements, and in many cases, those requirements are less stringent than what's demanded of conventional passenger cars. A typical automotive company would look at this situation and see an opportunity to save money by designing to the minimum legal standards. After all, if the law says you only need to meet certain basic criteria, why spend extra resources exceeding those requirements? But Aptera has made a decision that sets them apart from most startups trying to bring new vehicles to market. They're not settling for the bare minimum. They've publicly committed to meeting the full spectrum of applicable safety standards, even when they're not legally required to do so. The three-wheeled configuration generates immediate skepticism among people who are accustomed to traditional vehicles. Discussions across Reddit reveal a pattern of initial concern, with potential buyers asking variations of the same fundamental question: can a three-wheeled vehicle really be as safe as a conventional car with four wheels? The most insightful responses in these discussions come from users with engineering backgrounds, who patiently explain that vehicle stability isn't simply a matter of counting wheels. What actually determines whether a vehicle will remain stable during aggressive maneuvers or emergency situations comes down to factors like the vehicle's center of gravity, the width of the wheelbase, the distribution of mass, and the overall design philosophy that guides how all these elements work together as a system. Aptera's engineering team has obsessed over these exact factors. The vehicle features an extremely low center of gravity, achieved primarily through the placement of the battery pack low in the chassis. This is similar to the approach taken by other electric vehicles, where the heavy battery assembly sits as close to the ground as possible, creating a stabilizing effect that dramatically reduces the risk of rollover accidents. In fact, engineers discussing the design on Quora have pointed out something that surprises many people. Aptera's center of gravity is actually positioned lower than numerous traditional SUVs and pickup trucks currently being sold and driven by millions of people every day. Those larger vehicles, despite having four wheels, carry their mass much higher off the ground, which makes them inherently more prone to tipping in extreme situations. The wheelbase design deserves particular attention because it's one of the most critical safety elements that people often overlook. Aptera hasn't just slapped three wheels onto a body and called it good. The front wheels are positioned far apart from each other, creating a wide stance that provides exceptional stability during cornering and emergency maneuvers. When you combine that wide front track with the low center of gravity we just discussed, you get a vehicle that resists rollover forces far more effectively than its unconventional appearance might suggest. The physics working in Aptera's favor here are the same physics that make race cars stable at high speeds. Keep the weight low, spread the wheels wide, and you create a platform that wants to stay planted on the road. The company's commitment to exceeding minimum standards rather than merely meeting them represents a crucial philosophical distinction that speaks volumes about their priorities. While auto cycles in many states face fewer regulatory hurdles than traditional automobiles, Aptera has stated clearly and publicly that they intend to meet all applicable federal motor vehicle safety standards. Let me emphasize why this matters so much. They're voluntarily choosing to design, engineer, test, and certify their vehicle to the same rigorous benchmarks that apply to cars from Honda, Toyota, Ford, and every other established manufacturer. This isn't a requirement imposed by law. This is a decision driven by their belief that their customers deserve the same level of protection regardless of how many wheels are touching the pavement. Now let's talk about the foundation of any vehicle's ability to protect its occupants: the structural integrity of the body and chassis. This is where Aptera's approach becomes truly fascinating from an engineering perspective, because they've abandoned traditional automotive construction methods entirely in favor of advanced composite materials that offer properties impossible to achieve with conventional steel or aluminum. The vehicle's body utilizes what Aptera calls their safety cell, a proprietary composite structure that isn't just typical fiberglass or even standard carbon fiber. According to detailed information that has emerged through community forums and official communications, this safety cell has been specifically engineered to absorb impact forces and distribute them throughout the structure in ways that protect the people inside. The goal isn't just to create a rigid shell that resists deformation. The goal is to create an intelligent structure that deforms in precisely controlled ways, absorbing energy during a crash so that energy doesn't get transferred into the passenger compartment where it would harm occupants. The construction method employed here is called sandwich composite construction, and if you're not familiar with materials engineering, let me explain why this approach is so effective. Sandwich composites work by layering different materials with different properties to create a final structure that exhibits characteristics no single material could achieve on its own. You might have a stiff outer skin providing structural rigidity, a core material that's designed to crush and absorb energy, and an inner skin that maintains integrity to protect the occupants. The result is a structure that can be incredibly lightweight while still providing robust crash protection, which seems contradictory until you understand the material science involved. People who have attended Aptera demonstration events and later shared their experiences on Reddit describe watching company engineers perform strength demonstrations with the body panels. One account that gained significant attention described an engineer standing on a body panel. Automotive safety experts participating in discussions on Quora have made an important point that challenges common assumptions about materials. Modern composite structures can actually outperform traditional steel frames in certain crash scenarios, particularly when it comes to energy absorption. Steel is strong and predictable, which is why it's been the dominant material in automotive construction for so long. But steel also has limitations. It deforms in specific ways under load, and once it begins to buckle or tear, its behavior can become unpredictable. Advanced composites, on the other hand, can be engineered with much more precise control over how they fail, allowing engineers to design structures that absorb energy exactly where and how they want it absorbed. Aptera's engineering team has designed dedicated crumple zones into both the front and rear sections of the vehicle. These zones serve a critical function that many people don't fully appreciate. They're programmed to deform in controlled, predictable ways during an impact, absorbing the kinetic energy before it can reach the passenger compartment. This is the same fundamental principle used in every modern car, but the execution differs because Aptera is working with different materials and dealing with a unique vehicle geometry. The front of the vehicle, for instance, needs to crumple progressively during a frontal impact, each stage of deformation absorbing energy and slowing the deceleration forces that would otherwise be transmitted to the occupants. The composite materials allow the engineers to fine-tune this behavior with remarkable precision. The structural safety foundation matters enormously, but it's just one piece of a comprehensive safety strategy. Let's shift our focus to the active safety systems, the technologies that work to prevent accidents from happening in the first place. Prevention is always preferable to protection, and Aptera has integrated several key systems designed to help drivers avoid dangerous situations before they escalate into collisions. Every Aptera vehicle comes equipped with 4 external cameras as standard equipment, and these aren't merely nice-to-have accessories or luxury features reserved for premium trim levels. These cameras form an integral part of the vehicle's safety architecture, providing capabilities that directly contribute to accident avoidance. The camera system delivers complete 360-degree visibility around the vehicle, effectively eliminating the blind spots that plague conventional cars. If you've ever tried to change lanes in a traditional vehicle and had that moment of uncertainty about whether there's a car in your blind spot, you understand how valuable comprehensive visibility becomes. In a vehicle with a unique form factor like Aptera, where other drivers might not immediately recognize what they're looking at, the ability for the Aptera driver to see everything around them becomes even more critical. The parking assistance system leverages these same camera feeds to help drivers navigate tight spaces safely and confidently. Given Aptera's compact footprint and exceptional maneuverability, the vehicle can fit into parking spots that would challenge much larger cars, and the camera system ensures that drivers can take full advantage of that capability without anxiety about scraping against obstacles or misjudging distances. Multiple discussion threads on Reddit explore how the camera system can function as a continuous recording dash cam, capturing footage of any incidents for insurance purposes and safety analysis. This isn't just useful for determining fault after an accident. The mere presence of cameras can modify driver behavior, both for the Aptera driver who knows their actions are being recorded, and for surrounding drivers who can see the prominent camera housings and might think twice before engaging in aggressive or reckless behavior. The anti-lock braking system, universally known as ABS, comes standard on every Aptera. This technology has been around long enough that we sometimes forget how revolutionary it was when first introduced and how many lives it has saved over the decades since it became widespread. The data is unambiguous. ABS reduces accident rates by preventing wheel lockup during emergency braking situations. When you slam on the brakes in a panic situation, without ABS, the wheels can lock up completely, causing you to lose steering control and potentially sending the vehicle into a skid. ABS prevents this by rapidly pulsing the brake pressure many times per second, allowing the wheels to maintain just enough rotation to preserve steering control while still achieving maximum braking force. The system responds faster than any human driver possibly could, making split-second adjustments that can mean the difference between avoiding an obstacle and crashing into it. Aptera's regenerative braking system contributes to safety in ways that might not be immediately obvious. This system uses the electric motors as generators during deceleration, converting the vehicle's kinetic energy back into electrical energy that gets stored in the battery. From a safety perspective, what matters is how this affects the driving experience and driver control. Drivers participating in discussions on Aptera forums frequently mention how regenerative braking creates a more controlled and predictable driving experience. The vehicle begins slowing the moment you lift off the accelerator, providing a smooth, progressive deceleration that feels natural and gives you more options for speed control without constantly stabbing at the brake pedal. This predictable behavior means you're less likely to find yourself in situations where you need to brake hard at the last moment, because the regenerative system is constantly helping you manage your speed. The vehicle's low mass deserves recognition as a genuine safety advantage that works in concert with the other active systems. Aptera targets a curb weight around 1,800 pounds for the base model, which is extraordinarily light compared to modern cars that often weigh twice that much or more. Basic physics tells us that force equals mass times acceleration, which means reducing mass gives you significant advantages when you need to change direction or speed quickly. A lighter vehicle requires less force to accelerate, less force to decelerate, and less force to change direction. This translates directly into shorter stopping distances and better maneuverability, giving drivers more options when they need to react to unexpected hazards. The relationship between mass and safety cuts both ways, of course. In a collision between a very light vehicle and a very heavy one, the light vehicle's occupants face greater risks, but in terms of your ability to avoid that collision in the first place, being light and nimble provides real advantages. When active safety systems fail and a collision becomes unavoidable, passive safety systems take over to protect the occupants during the crash itself. Aptera has integrated multiple layers of passive protection, starting with the dual frontal airbags that come standard in every vehicle. These airbags are positioned and calibrated specifically for Aptera's interior geometry and seating positions, ensuring they deploy with the right force and timing to cushion occupants during a frontal impact without causing injuries from the airbag deployment itself. Side impact protection generates significant discussion on platforms like Quora, with people reasonably questioning how a three-wheeled vehicle can protect occupants from lateral collisions. Aptera addresses this challenge through several complementary mechanisms that work together as a system. The wide stance between the front wheels creates a substantial protective buffer zone. In a side impact scenario, there's significant structure and space between the point of impact and the occupants.
The Aptera composite safety cell has been specifically engineered to resist intrusion during side impacts, using the material properties we discussed earlier to maintain structural integrity while absorbing energy. The seat design and positioning place occupants in the safest possible location within the protective structure, maximizing the distance between them and any potential impact point. The seatbelt systems incorporate pre-tensioners and load limiters that work in precise coordination with the airbags. Understanding how these components function helps appreciate the sophistication of modern passive safety systems. In the first milliseconds of a crash, before the airbags even deploy, the pre-tensioners fire, instantly removing any slack from the seatbelt and pulling the occupant firmly back into the seat. This ensures the person is in the optimal position when the airbag deploys. Then, as the crash forces begin to load the person's body against the belt, the load limiters allow controlled extension of the belt webbing, carefully managing the forces applied to the chest and preventing the belt itself from causing serious injuries. These systems have to walk a fine line, restrain the occupant firmly enough to prevent dangerous movement, but not so firmly that the restraint system itself becomes a source of injury. The windshield and windows meet automotive safety glass standards, providing visibility and protection. The glass is designed to remain in place during a crash, containing the occupants within the protective structure, rather than allowing ejection, which remains one of the most dangerous outcomes in any collision. The glass must also resist penetration from outside objects, preventing intrusion of debris or other hazards into the passenger compartment. Engineering these safety features represents half the challenge. The other half involves validating through rigorous testing that everything actually works as intended.
Understanding the regulatory landscape provides crucial context for appreciating what Aptera is actually committing to when they talk about safety standards. As we mentioned earlier, Aptera's three-wheeled design typically classifies it as an autocycle in most United States jurisdictions. The regulatory requirements for autocycles vary depending on where you are, but they're generally less demanding than the requirements imposed on four-wheeled passenger vehicles. A company focused purely on minimizing costs and time to market would design to those lower standards and move on, but that's not the path Aptera has chosen. The company's public commitment to meeting applicable federal motor vehicle safety standards represents a voluntary decision to hold themselves to higher benchmarks than the law requires. What does this actually mean in practical terms? The federal motor vehicle safety standards cover an enormous range of requirements, from the strength of seatbelt anchorages to the performance of lighting equipment, from the security of door locks to the effectiveness of windshield defrosting systems. By committing to these standards, Aptera is essentially declaring that they're building their vehicle to the same safety benchmarks that govern conventional automobiles from established manufacturers. The state-by-state variation in autocycle regulations creates an interesting challenge. Different states have different requirements regarding whether autocycle drivers must wear motorcycle helmets, whether they need motorcycle endorsements on their licenses, and various other operational requirements. Aptera is working to ensure their vehicle meets the most stringent requirements across all jurisdictions, preventing situations where the vehicle might be legal in some states but not others. This forward-thinking approach avoids the nightmare scenario of producing vehicles that can't be registered or operated in certain markets. International considerations factor into Aptera's long-term planning, even though the initial focus remains in the United States market. Designing with international safety standards in mind from the beginning prevents the need for costly redesigns later if the company decides to expand into European, Asian, or other markets. Each major market has its own safety standards and testing requirements, and reconciling these different frameworks during the initial design phase is far easier than trying to retrofit compliance after you've already committed to a particular design direction.
Discussions on Quora about automotive regulations reveal an interesting perspective. Aptera's voluntary commitment to higher safety standards could actually provide significant competitive advantages. When consumers compare different vehicle options, safety features and crash test ratings consistently rank among the top decision factors. By meeting the same standards as traditional cars, Aptera removes a potential objection and positions their vehicle as equally safe despite its unconventional configuration. Looking toward the future, Aptera's safety technology roadmap extends well beyond the features that will be available at initial launch. The company has hinted through various communications and forum discussions about advanced driver assistance systems that could be added as the platform matures. While not all of these features will be present on day one, the vehicle's architecture has been designed with future expansion in mind. The camera infrastructure already installed in every vehicle provides the foundation for advanced driver assistance systems that could include lane departure warnings, forward collision warnings, and potentially autonomous emergency braking. These systems use computer vision to analyze the camera feeds in real time, identifying potential hazards and either warning the driver or taking direct action to prevent collisions. The hardware is already there in every vehicle, which means these capabilities could potentially be activated through software updates as the systems are developed and validated. Over-the-air update capability represents a fundamental shift in how vehicles can evolve over their operational lives. Traditional cars are essentially frozen in time once they leave the factory. Whatever features and capabilities they have on day one are generally what they'll have for their entire existence. But modern electric vehicles from companies like Tesla have demonstrated that over-the-air updates can improve, refine, and enhance vehicle systems throughout the ownership experience without requiring visits to service centers. Aptera is designing with this capability from the start, which means safety systems can be continuously improved based on real-world data and emerging technologies. Sensor fusion represents the next evolution in vehicle perception systems. While cameras provide excellent visual information and work well in good lighting conditions, they have limitations in rain, fog, or darkness. Future versions of Aptera could integrate radar sensors or LiDAR systems alongside the existing cameras, creating a more robust perception capability that works reliably across all weather and lighting conditions. Each sensor type has strengths and weaknesses, and combining them through sensor fusion allows the vehicle to build a more complete and accurate picture of its surroundings than any single sensor type could provide. Speculation in Reddit discussion threads about Aptera eventually offering autonomous driving capabilities hasn't been confirmed by the company with any specific timelines, but the vehicle's electrical architecture and computing platform don't preclude these additions. The progression from basic driver assistance features to higher levels of autonomy is a gradual path that many manufacturers are following, and Aptera's platform could theoretically support that journey if the company chooses to pursue it. Even the solar charging system, primarily designed as an efficiency feature, has secondary safety implications that deserve recognition. A vehicle that can maintain its battery charge indefinitely when parked in sunny conditions reduces the risk of being stranded with a dead battery, which represents a real safety concern for any electric vehicle. Running out of charge on a remote highway or in an unsafe area creates vulnerability that goes beyond mere inconvenience. Real-world safety considerations extend beyond engineering specifications and test results to encompass how the vehicle actually performs in daily driving situations owners will encounter. The visibility from the driver's seat matters enormously for safe operation, and Aptera's design provides exceptional outward visibility that surpasses many modern conventional vehicles. The wraparound windshield and elevated seating position give drivers a commanding view of the road ahead and to the sides. Multiple people who have sat in prototype vehicles during demonstration events have commented on the remarkable visibility compared to contemporary cars that sacrifice sightlines for styling, with thick pillars obstructing views and small windows creating blind spots. The vehicle's relatively small size and unusual appearance raise legitimate questions about conspicuity. Will other drivers see an Aptera? Will they recognize it as a vehicle and respond appropriately? Aptera addresses these concerns through several approaches. The lighting system is designed to make the vehicle highly visible to other road users, using bright LED technology in configurations that catch attention. The unique silhouette actually works in Aptera's favor here, because the vehicle doesn't blend into the background the way conventional cars do. It attracts attention rather than disappearing into traffic. The availability of bright color options and reflective surfaces further enhances visibility, ensuring that other drivers will notice an Aptera even in challenging conditions. Weather performance represents another real-world safety consideration where Aptera's design characteristics provide advantages. The low center of gravity and wide front track give the vehicle excellent stability in crosswinds and adverse weather conditions. Anyone who has driven a tall vehicle like an SUV or van in strong crosswinds understands how unsettling it feels when gusts push the vehicle around. Aptera's low, wide stance keeps it planted even when wind conditions would trouble larger vehicles. The enclosed cabin protects occupants from the elements far more effectively than motorcycles, which occupy a similar regulatory category but leave riders exposed to rain, cold, heat, and road debris. Emergency response procedures matter in the aftermath of serious accidents. Aptera has committed to providing comprehensive first responder guides that detail the vehicle's construction, electrical systems, battery locations, and recommended procedures for safely assisting occupants and securing the vehicle after a collision. This is standard practice for electric vehicles, which present unique challenges for emergency personnel unfamiliar with high-voltage systems and battery technologies. First responders need to know where they can safely cut into the vehicle structure if necessary, where high-voltage cables run, how to disconnect the electrical system, and how to handle potential battery fires. Providing this information in advance ensures that emergency personnel can help effectively without putting themselves at risk. Community discussions on Reddit reveal an interesting pattern among potential buyers with professional driving experience. Many of these individuals, who drive for a living and have logged hundreds of thousands of miles, express the opinion that Aptera's combination of lightweight design, exceptional visibility, and advanced safety features could actually make it safer than many conventional vehicles in everyday driving scenarios. Their perspective carries weight because these are people who understand vehicle dynamics at a visceral level and can evaluate how different design characteristics affect real-world safety. Perhaps the most important dimension of Aptera's safety story isn't any particular feature or specification. It's the company's overall culture and the commitment that drives their decision-making process. Throughout every public communication, interview, and forum interaction, Aptera's leadership.
The transparency with which the company communicates with their community deserves recognition because it's far from universal in the automotive industry. Rather than deflecting or minimizing safety concerns raised by potential customers, Aptera addresses them directly with technical explanations and honest acknowledgement of challenges. This open dialogue builds trust in ways that polished marketing materials never could. When someone asks a difficult question about side impact protection or crash testing, they get substantive answers rather than vague reassurances. The commitment to continuous improvement shows up in the company's willingness to refine designs based on testing results and community feedback even before production begins. Most manufacturers would lock down a design and resist changes to avoid delays and cost overruns. Aptera has demonstrated flexibility in evolving their approach when better solutions emerge, prioritizing getting it right over getting it done quickly.
The data from Google Trends showing increasing search interest in Aptera's safety features and crash testing indicates that the company's safety messaging is reaching and resonating with potential customers. People are actively seeking information about these topics, which suggests that Aptera's emphasis on safety isn't just internal philosophy, but something that's being communicated effectively to their target market. The discussions among automotive engineers on Quora reveal a noteworthy pattern of professional respect for Aptera's approach, even from individuals who maintain general skepticism about automotive startups. The engineering community has seen many startups make grand promises that evaporate under scrutiny. The fact that professionals in the field are taking Aptera's safety commitments seriously suggests that the company's approach meets a threshold of credibility that many other startups fail to reach. When we compare Aptera's safety approach to that of traditional automotive manufacturers, we encounter interesting contrasts that illuminate both advantages and challenges. Established manufacturers bring decades of institutional knowledge, extensive testing facilities, proven supply chains, and safety track records built over millions of vehicles and billions of miles driven. These advantages cannot be dismissed or minimized. A company like Toyota or Honda knows exactly how to build safe vehicles because they've been doing it successfully for generations. However, these established manufacturers also operate under constraints that Aptera doesn't face. They're working with legacy architectures and manufacturing processes that were designed decades ago. When they want to incorporate new materials or novel design approaches, they have to figure out how to integrate those innovations into existing platforms and production systems. They have enormous investments in tooling and facilities optimized for traditional construction methods, which creates inertia that resists dramatic changes. Aptera's advantages stem from starting with a completely clean sheet of paper. Every decision can be optimized for the vehicle they want to build, rather than constrained by compatibility with existing systems. They can choose the best materials for the application without worrying about whether their factories are set up to work with those materials, because they're setting up their factories specifically for this vehicle. They can integrate safety systems from the ground up rather than retrofitting them into designs that were originally created before those systems existed. The use of modern materials and manufacturing techniques gives Aptera access to capabilities that simply weren't available when older platforms were initially designed. Advanced composites have improved dramatically over the past 2 decades. Computer simulation and analysis tools have become exponentially more powerful. Battery technology has evolved to the point where electric powertrains can be designed from scratch rather than adapted from internal combustion architectures. Aptera benefits from all of these advances because they're building a brand new design rather than evolving an existing one. The lighter weight of the vehicle provides inherent safety advantages in certain scenarios, particularly regarding maneuverability and stopping distance. We discussed earlier how reduced mass improves your ability to change direction and speed, giving drivers more options when they need to avoid hazards. This advantage is built into the fundamental design rather than added as an afterthought. The challenges Aptera faces are equally real and significant. They don't have the institutional knowledge that comes from building vehicles for a century. They have a smaller testing budget and fewer resources for extensive prototype iterations. They need to prove their safety credentials to consumers who have never heard of the brand and have no historical reference point for evaluating their claims. The unusual design requires consumer education about safety features that work differently than what people are accustomed to. Data from Reddit polls within the Aptera community reveals that safety consistently ranks as one of the top 3 purchasing considerations, alongside efficiency and price. This demonstrates clearly that Aptera's target market isn't composed of early adopters willing to accept compromised safety for the sake of being first with new technology. These potential buyers want innovation, but they're not willing to sacrifice protection for themselves and their families. Industry analysts participating in discussions on Quora have noted that new automotive companies frequently struggle with safety credibility because consumers are understandably cautious about trusting their lives to unproven manufacturers. The companies that succeed in overcoming this credibility gap typically do so by exceeding rather than merely meeting safety standards, demonstrating through their actions that they take safety more seriously than the law requires. This is exactly the path Aptera has chosen, which suggests they understand the challenge they face and have a strategy for addressing it. Let's directly address the most common safety concerns that appear repeatedly in online discussions, because these questions deserve clear, straightforward answers based on the available evidence and engineering principles. The question about whether three-wheeled vehicles can be safe comes up constantly, often phrased as a simple question, but reflecting deeper concerns about stability and crashworthiness. The answer requires understanding that the number of wheels is far less important than how the vehicle is designed. A poorly designed four-wheeled vehicle can be dangerous. A well-designed three-wheeled vehicle can be safe. What actually determines stability is the relationship between the center of gravity, the wheelbase width, the track width, and the overall mass distribution. Aptera's wide front track positions the wheels far apart, creating a stable platform. The low center of gravity achieved through battery placement means the vehicle resists tipping forces. Electronic stability management systems can detect and correct for instability before it becomes dangerous. The vehicle has been engineered specifically to remain stable even during extreme maneuvers that would challenge many conventional cars. Side impact protection generates legitimate concern given the unconventional configuration. The wide stance between the front wheels places substantial structure between any lateral impact point and the occupants. The composite safety cell has been designed specifically to resist intrusion during side impacts, using material properties that allow it to absorb energy while maintaining the integrity of the passenger compartment. Future versions may incorporate side airbags for additional protection. The concern is valid, but the engineering solutions are real and based on proven principles. When people ask whether Aptera can protect occupants as well as a regular car, they're really asking whether the fundamental approach to safety is sound. Aptera's strategy for occupant protection uses the same core principles that govern conventional vehicle safety: absorb impact energy through controlled structural deformation, restrain occupants to prevent dangerous movement, and provide better options for collision avoidance through greater maneuverability and braking efficiency.